So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Here back here, BSN Network. This is BSN Network Podcast here today. It is Friday, February 4th. Hopefully everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Friday, February 4th here today, coming off another big night last night in the world of sports. I guess maybe not the hugest night ever, there wasn't a ton on, but you did have some basketball on, a couple NBA games were on. Hawks got a really nice win against the Suns. I was watching that game. So it was a good night last night, a couple good basketball games, I guess better than watching the Nets lose every night and watching James Harden quit on his team and watching Julius Randle and the Knicks play their game, and they're not playing well and they're playing really bad, and New York basketball looks ugly. So yesterday, I guess as fans, we kind of got our eyes, were able to kind of be relaxed and our eyes watching good basketball, because New York basketball fans, if you're a Net fan or if you're a Knicks fan, many more Knicks fans out there, as we all know, than there are Net fans. But either way, whatever fan you are of either team, your eyes have been hurting watching both of your teams. So I've been hurting watching the Nets, and I'm sure many Knicks fans, not just this year, but for a long time now, Knicks fans have been really hurting watching their basketball team. So last night, we got a little bit of break from that. Like I said, both hockey teams are on the All-Star break, so neither hockey team, or I should say that, I should disagree, hold on, completely forget what I said. Rangers are really good, and the Islanders, aren't in a great situation right now, as they're 16-17, and I forget how many OT losses they've had this season going into the break. So, yesterday was, a day where, as a fan, I was able to just watch some other games, enjoy them, not have to sit back and scream at James Harden in front of my TV, not have to sit there and just have all the pain of just losing inside of me, not sit there and watch James Harden drive to the net every play and get absolutely rejected and then complain for a foul, not sit there and watch James Harden go 2 for 11 from the field. So we got some good basketball last night. Tonight we're back to the Nets. There will be no James Harden on the court tonight. He's out with hamstring tightness, and we did just get word a couple minutes ago, about 30 minutes ago, probably half an hour ago. Today will only be a 30-minute podcast, by the way. I apologize for those of you who like the hour podcast. I know believe me, I love talking for a long time. I could talk for hours. I don't, but I could. So today's only going to be a 30-minute podcast. I'm only going to have one topic. Yesterday I talked about James Harden, but there was a report that came out about half an hour ago that the Nets are willing to trade Harden, and 76ers are going to discuss a trade. So it looks as if right now Nets and Sixers are going to be, on the call, on the phone, talking about Harden and possibly making a trade. And I've said this for the longest time now. The Nets should trade James Harden. And now that they finally realize he's quit on the team, they finally realize he's not playing good, they finally realize he doesn't want to be here, it's about time that they pick up the phone and make a call. So, Nets, all that craziness going on. Next week, before the trade deadline on Thursday, I will talk about all that stuff. Next week's going to be a pretty crazy week with the Nets and James Harden and the Sixers and all the trades, just all the trades in general. What's going to happen with Julius Randle, the rumors about the Aaron Fox possibly coming to the Knicks. So next week's going to be pretty crazy in terms of basketball. You're also going to have football to talk about, so next week's going to be pretty wild. But tonight, you got the Nets on against the Jazz. Only 2 NBA games on tonight. Not much going on in the world of... I apologize, not 2 NBA games. I apologize. Nets on tonight. There's a lot of NBA games. I don't know why I said 2, because on my screen here it only showed 2 games. Tonight, you got the Nets on against the Jazz as the Nets continue their West Coast road trip. They will play tonight in Utah against the Jazz. Donovan Mitchell returned from a concussion. And on Sunday, they'll wrap up their West Coast trip against the Nuggets, and the Knicks have another day off today. They will be back in action tomorrow in LA. I believe they start up a West Coast trip starting tomorrow against the Lakers in LA. Like I said, Rangers Islanders still on their, just began their All-Star break tonight. By the way, 7:30 Eastern. It's going to be the NHL skills competition. Super fired up and pumped up about that. The shooting is going to be on the water. It's going to be a sight to see. So super pumped up about that. So Nets on tonight. Islanders, Rangers still on the All-Star break. Knicks another day off today. They'll be back in action tomorrow against the Lakers in LA. Alrighty, let's get to the topic for today's podcast. Like I said, another short 25 to 30-minute podcast. I'm going to talk about Senior Bowl. I haven't talked about it much this week. I touched upon it briefly, I think last Friday or something like that. And I figured, right, we had football last weekend. This time last week, we were talking about Football Friday. So I figured continue that trend because it's been Football Friday since September. Continue it. Talk a little football on this Friday. Next week will be the final Football Friday podcast of the year as we will give you my picks and all that good stuff for the Super Bowl. So I figured this week there is, the Pro Bowl and all that, but the Senior Bowl as well tomorrow, Pro Bowl as well. But I wanted to really take a deep dive into Senior Bowl, and as the week of practice is officially over with, and the Jets, considering the Jets have such a big role this year in the Senior Bowl, I wanted to talk about just the overall, my takeaways, who stood out, who looks like a possibility for the Jets, and overall just what I saw, what I take away from the clips that I've seen, just the videos and the overall articles that I've read. I took some players. I named about, we got 7 on this list. I took 7 players that stood out and possibilities that are up in the draft, players that the Jets could look at. So I'll get you to see Senior Bowl standouts, and how it all relates to the Jets. I know the Giants relate too, but I figured that the Jets coaching staff was there. They saw the players firsthand. Jets have a greater this Senior Bowl has a greater impact, I feel like, right now on the Jets just because of their coaches and all that there than it does on many other teams because their coaches are there, they're coaching them, they're up close with them. So we're going to get to that. And we're going to finish off the podcast with the New York Sports Update. Like I said, a quick video today, just about 25-30 minutes due to timing. Look, just the way scheduling is right now, busy time for me. So I'm only able to get a couple videos, couple 30-minute videos up. And I always say, if people don't, if you don't like it, well, it is what it is. But here's the thing, right? It's either no video or I can make a 30-minute video. And I know some people really like the 30-minute video because I know there's some people that aren't a huge fan of the hour videos, and I also know people that love the hour videos and don't like the short videos. So you kind of got to find the medium, but today is going to be another short 30-minute video, and we'll get to the Senior Bowl and the New York Sports Update. Like I said, only thing going on tonight in the world of New York sports is the Brooklyn Nets, 9 Eastern in Utah against the Jazz. And Harden's out with hamstring tightness, and the possibility is very real that he played his last game as a Brooklyn Net, and if not, maybe his last game's on Sunday against the Nuggets or sometime next week, depending on if / when this trade happens. Alrighty, so a lot to get to, even though only 30 minutes. I got a lot to say on the Senior Bowl and got a lot to say on this week and the game heading into the actual game tomorrow. So, with all that being said, this is BSN Podcast, and let's get right into it. Alrighty, so the Senior Bowl, as we all know, began this week, is this week, not started or began. It is this week. Monday through Friday has been practices. Wednesday was a rainy day, so it's tough to kind of judge a little bit what happened Wednesday, but I've been following it all. You can only follow it so much, right? I don't believe it's on TV. If it is, I've missed out, but you can only follow it so much. A lot of the insiders of the Jets, reporters for the Jets, have been doing really excellent job giving me and many other fans and just NFL fans in general coverage of what's going on, some clips of different players and some plays and scrimmages and drills and a whole lot of Joe Douglas is watching this player, everybody let's overreact and say the Jets are going to draft this guy. There's been a whole lot of that, and that happens during the Senior Bowl, right? That also happens in the NFL Combine. It also happens when GMs and coaches go to the players' pro days. They're like, They talk to the player, and everyone's like, oh, God, here we go. They're getting drafted. So sometimes, as a fan, sometimes you can't overreact too much because you see Joe Douglas watching one guy, and you're like, oh, wow, he's coming to the Jets. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It means he's interested, maybe, just talking to him and stuff, but it doesn't mean he's coming to the Jets. You also got all, 31 other NFL teams, trying to help and build and improve their rosters as well. It's not just you, and you don't have the choice of who every other team takes, And there's also only so much, like I said, before I give you the 7 players that I got on my list, there's only so much you can take away. It's practice, right? It's guys going to be, each other. There is a lot more you could take away from this, I would say, than the Combine because you're actually playing against defense. You're playing up against guys that are even your skill. You're playing up against guys that are all going to get drafted or, maybe not all of them, but you're playing against some high-quality guys, right? Kenny Pickett's out there, Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis, just some of the quarterbacks. And for the corners in the Senior Bowl, some big guys like that. And, offensive linemen, you're going up against some good defensive players, like Jermaine Johnson's and, guys like that. And there's a lot. So it's kind of iron sharpens iron in a way of how the Senior Bowl works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my 7 guys that I took away. Like I said, there's many more. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of guys that I liked what I saw in some of the videos, but really what I saw mostly in the articles I read, the list that I saw, other people, other Jets fans saying, these are the 7 guys that ultimately not only do I believe showed out and really proved themselves during this week of practice and into the game tomorrow, but also many other fans, not only with the Jets, but around the league, believe and saw. So, here's my 7 players. I'm going to tell you right now. I know Kenny Pickett stood out. I know Malik Willis stood out. I know Desmond Ridder had a little bit of a tough week. I'm not going to beat any of those or praise any of those quarterbacks. Those quarterbacks had good, Malik Willis and, Kenny Pickett had really good weeks. Pickett struggled on Wednesday a little bit, but it was rainy. The ball was wet. He kind of had a little bit of control issues. I'm not going to talk about the quarterbacks. I'm telling you right now. You're not going to get me talking about, I know I'm talking about them now, but I know some people are like, oh, Kenny Pickett look good. No. Zach Wilson's going to be the quarterback next year for the Jets. There's no debate about it. So, these are my 7 players that I took away that truly I believe stood out to me from what I saw and what a lot of other people are saying. I took 2 defenders, 5 offensive players. So I'm just going to tell you right now, I want the Jets to build around Wilson. I want them to build around Wilson. What I saw was a lot of good offensive talent out there that could be available in the later rounds and could be available for the Jets to take. And if the Jets maybe don't want to spend as much money in the in free agency and spend a lot more, build a lot more in the draft, these are the guys to look at. Here are my 7 standouts from the Super Bowl. No particular order. Super Bowl. I keep saying the Super Bowl. Senior Bowl. No particular order. Like I said, I just kind of went down the list. No order at all. It's just kind of what I saw. The first guy I will tell you, I put on this list probably either way because he's a true option for the Jets. Here we go. Trey McBride, tight end, Colorado State, was one of the standouts. Look, what I'm hearing around the league, what I'm hearing, from scouts and from people there, he's a good tight end. He's a very good tight end. He's the best tight end in the draft. That's the reality of it. A guy who the Jets are going to have to make a decision here. Truly, the Jets are going to have to come down and make a decision. Whether they want to sign Dalton Schultz or somebody like that, or do they hold off in free agency and then, draft Trey McBride. McBride, I think this week really proved his status that there's a good chance he might go late first round. So the Jets are going to have to make a decision. Their 10th overall pick comes too early to draft McBride. You're not drafting McBride with a top 10 pick. Possibility of McBride not being there by your first pick in the second round, a very highly likely possibility. Also, the possibility of him being there is a chance. But what I took away this week is the Jets are going to have to make a decision. They might be able to take McBride and Schultz, and I would have no issue with that. But if the Jets do not take or do not sign a big-name tight end in free agency, they're going to have to, I believe, there's a good chance they might have to trade up for or trade back for McBride, gather some more picks, and maybe get McBride later on in the first round. Trade out of that 10th slot. Because what I've seen from a lot of people and what he showed this week at the Senior Bowl only added on to his case of being a first rounder. A lot of people have him in the second round. But with him continuing to, his stock rising, and with him having a good week, truly, though, he might be a late first rounder. So that's going to make an interesting situation for the Jets. I want the Jets to go out. I am hearing that the Jets might look more towards, signing a tight end. And, in free agency, which I would have no issue with, I want us to sign a tight end too. True. To be honest with you, what I would want is the Jets to go out and sign a tight end. Throw the bank at Dalton Schultz. Something like that. That's what I would want. I have no issue with drafting McBride, but my first choice would be Schultz. But McBride this weekend not only proved the Jets, but proved 31 other NFL teams that there's a legit, really good tight end in this draft. Trey McBride, one of the standouts. The next one was Jeremy Rucker, tight end from Ohio State. This is a guy that I'm very high on coming out of the Senior Bowl week. This was the guy going into the Senior Bowl, kind of under the radar, right? You have tight ends you have a tight end like McBride and kind of a guy who was really good. Another tight end from UCLA that had, was growing a name. And Rucker kind of came into the draft with everything that Ohio State's got, all the weapons, right? You look at, Smith Nigba, and I think that's his name. And then you have, right? Chris Olave and all those guys. Jeremy Rucker, in a way, kind of gets, kind of gets a little lost in the mix a little bit. Kind of gets, lost in the mix there. He's very good tight end. Kind of gets lost with the two big receivers, and then, Chris Olave and, the other guy there, I don't know really how to pronounce his last name. So it's Josh Smith-Nigba, I think his name is, or something like that. I'm not too sure how to pronounce it. Apologize for that. But Rucker, in a way, kind of gets lost in the mix a little bit there. And I felt like this week in the Senior Bowl for Rucker, this was a really good showing for him, saying, you give me a lot of targets, you give me the opportunity, I'm really good. And we saw it a little bit at Ohio State, but he gets an increased role, he could be a really solid asset. Rucker, definitely a guy. Maybe if the Jets are sold on somebody at number 10, and maybe if they're okay with passing up on McBride if he's a first rounder, Rucker definitely boosted his stock. Probably not a first rounder, but definitely second, and probably early second after a week like this. So Jeremy Rucker, tight end, Ohio State. The next guy I really like, and I know it might sound weird, but this could be a guy to just look at with all the craziness happening with Makai Bechten. If Becton's not it, and he comes into training camp again out of shape, and he's got weight issues, and he comes in not playing well, this could be a guy the Jets get late fourth, early fourth, late third round guy that I believe was probably mid fourth going into this week, and now is kind of hovering around that early fourth, late third round, is Trevor Penning, left tackle out of Northern Iowa. And it says it all. First of all, if I never really heard of the guy before the Senior Bowl. Second of all, it's Northern Iowa. This isn't Ohio State. This isn't a Big Ten school. This isn't an SEC school. This isn't Clemson. This isn't Alabama. This isn't Georgia. This is Northern Iowa, what we're talking about. A school that I never talk about on this podcast. A school that not many people ever talk about. A school that's really, it's a small name program. That's reality. So for him to come into the Senior Bowl this week, kind of coming in with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, I really like. He might be one of my favorites of what I saw. Whether the Jets draft him or not, just the way he plays. You talk about playing to the whistle. And Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh have said, you got to give it your all, right? You just, every single play, give it your all, play. Joe Douglas likes those type of players. He likes those guys that are tough, physical, gritty, plays until the whistle, makes some big blocks. Trevor Penning showed all of that this weekend. If you haven't seen it, you got to go watch some of the clips. Pancake some of the guy. Literally, the play will be 20 yards upfield. He will still have his guy blocking him, and it's not until the whistle where he lets go. And maybe at the whistle happens, he might give him extra shove. I mean, this is a guy that came in, I feel like, with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, small name school, not a big name to begin with, a guy the Jets could look out for as a possible safety blanket if, in fact, this Bechten in his situation with his health gets really, out of sync. You had him, Penning as a depth addition, late fourth or early fourth, late third, really a strong possibility. What I saw this weekend, I think Douglas, too, likes these type of players. To keep an eye out for Trevor Penning in the fourth and early third round, or late third round. Trevor Penning, left tackle, Northern Iowa. Christian Watson, wide receiver, North Dakota State. And he was actually the national team's top receiver this week. So out of all the receivers, he was the top one. He was the best one out there. And look, right, it all depends on the Jets draft strategy. Do the Jets want to go out? This is a guy that's tall, athletic, lengthy, fast, a good player, good solid player. He's a receiver. I mean, he's built like a receiver. He's got the attributes like a receiver. He's got he's got all the physical tools as a receiver, and there's no doubt about that. You look at him, he's 6'5", he's very tall, 6'5", 208. So he's very tall, and he's coming from a school in North Dakota State that's produced some NFL talent. So he's 6'5", and he's tall. He wins one-on-ones. This week there was a lot of one-on-ones he's winning. He's lengthy. He's strong. He's got a good physical. He's got a lot of just natural physical attributes that are good with receivers. I always say, I love tall receivers. Tall receivers, I think, are some of the dominant ones in the league. You get a receiver that can win a one-on-one ball. Look how successful they are. I mean, there's a lot of receivers in the NFL that have just made a living being one-on-one. Calvin Megatron made a living winning one-on-ones. At times, one-on-twos. DeAndre Hopkins has made a living deep ball one-on-ones. Mike Evans has made a living. If you're 6'5" and you can catch, you're going to be in the NFL, no doubt. And you're going to be a key asset. And for a guy coming from a little bit of a smaller name school that has produced some talent, a guy to look out for. If the Jets don't want to spend, first-round pick on a Garrett Wilson or maybe take the risk on Jameson Williams coming off a torn ACL, this could be a guy, along with Jahan Dotson, another deep ball threat in the later rounds, into the second, third, and fourth, that you could really look at. And I thought he put a strong showing out there this week, especially against some higher-level talent than what they're playing in the FCS at North Dakota State. Christian Watson, wide receiver, NDSU, was another standout. Now we're going to get to some defense here. Two of the next three will be defense. Jermaine Johnson, the second, defensive end out of Florida State. To be honest, this is one of the guys that I have not seen many clips from, so apologize if I'm kind of a little bit of kind of raw and not much meat on this kind of player, details and stuff, because I didn't really see many clips on him. It's been a lot of what I've read. It's been a lot of what I've seen. And as a matter of fact, I'm just going to read you a little bit about him. It's just a couple paragraphs about what he has done this week at Senior Bowl. Because like I said, this is a guy that I saw maybe a clip of. I recall I've seen like a clip, but I haven't seen much. A lot of these other guys I've seen a lot, good amount of clips. I mean, Trey McBride, Jeremy Rucker, I've already known going into this. Trevor Penning, I've seen a ton. Trevor Penning's all over the place just because it's funny. He's pancaking guys after the whistle. It's just funny. So he's just the guy that whether you don't care about whether you don't care about the Senior Bowl, he's all over the place because he's just pancaking players, and it's one of those funny things. But Jermaine Johnson, I'm just going to read you a little bit about him just because I fully don't know a crazy amount about him, but it's a lot of what I've read. It's a lot of, I've saw a clip of him. It's a lot of what I've read. It's a lot of, looking the stats last season just about him. Definitely a standout. Definitely got to look out for. Jets could use an edge. They could always use an edge. Use that true pass rusher. Could he be one of those guys you look a little bit later on and, could you get out of him? So this was from BR NFL scout Derek Klassen, has given the defensive end a 7.8 grade as a potential impact player with a second-round designation. Lauding his great ability to see blocks develop, get low, and control offensive linemen with his long arms against the run, while pointing out that his pass rush power runs hot and cold. But at least in mobile, that power was hot. Senior Executive Director Jim Nagy tweeted a video of one-on-one drill in which Johnson put Kentucky's Darian Kinnard, number 79 on BR's big board, on his back. That was the video I actually saw, and that's why I wanted to read this, just to give you some extra stuff on it. I did not know it was Darian Kinnard, who I actually have heard of before, but that was the one video I saw was the block on his back. And once I saw that and I started reading about him, I was like, yeah, I got to put this guy on my list. So Jermaine Johnson, another standout. My final two here are Zion Johnson, offensive lineman from Boston College. Another dude, right? A guy who really was probably a second rounder going into this, and coming out of it now, he's a first rounder. Just like Trey McBride, Jeremy Rucker could be in the conversation there. Add Zion Johnson to that list. He comes out of mobile. He's already has a grade of 8.2, and going into mobile, he was probably a more mid-second to early second, and he really wasn't in the conversation to be a late first-round pick. But after what we saw this week, after some of the blocks that he made, some of the speed and elusiveness and power he showed, definitely right now, I would say is definitely a real good shot he goes in the first. And if not first, definitely early second. This is a guy that definitely elevated his stock and really elevate himself, especially against, some of these other offensive linemen, some of these good defensive players as well that was in mobile. A guy elevates his stock, and another dude. If the Jets want to maybe trade back and get more picks, and, I could see us going Evan Neal definitely with number 4, but another guy just to look out for. And Zion Johnson really was good. And Johnson, too, one of the things I really liked about Johnson was the videos I saw, he was really good one-on-one. Very good at one-on-one. There was a lot of one-on-one, situations there, and it's big if you're an offensive lineman if you can win on one-on-ones. Because it might sound corny, but the reality is, if you can't win a one-on-one, you're going to let up a sack most of the time. Because most of the time, you are one-on-one. If you struggle one-on-one, you might need some help, or you might need to go on a different, if you can win on one-on-ones, you're in a good position. This week, he showed that a lot. He was probably the best one-on-one offensive lineman there. So definitely a guy to look out for now in the first round. And my last one, forgive me if I botch the name, Kingsley Enagbare, defensive end, edge from South Carolina. Another guy who boosted his stock, went up against some good offensive linemen, and really, really showed some potential. This is a guy too who probably elevated his stock. He was probably a early third pick. Now's a good chance he gets the call to go to he gets a call in day 2 of the NFL draft. He was probably a third round pick. Now there's a good chance he gets the call as a second round pick. Late second, but kind of one of the guys, South Carolina, smaller name SEC school, not a powerhouse. When you have teams like Bama and Georgia and, Kentucky had a really good season winning the Citrus Bowl, and you have all those powerhouses in the SEC. South Carolina, the smaller teams get lost in the mix. Ole Miss had a good year. I think, they made the Sugar Bowl. So when you have all those powerhouses, they got to get lost in the mix. And when you have some really good players in the SEC already, they also get lost in the mix. But one of the things I've always said is, when you're in good conferences, if you're not maybe the biggest name, the fact that you could still put up good numbers in a big-name conference against some really good teams is really good. And I think what Kingsley Enagbare showed this week was he could stand up there with some of the best of them. He showed in the SEC and again this week. Some good offensive linemen, some really good players, some really good, guys out there in Mobile, Alabama, at the Senior Bowl. Really showed that he could stand up there with some of the best. Maybe, he was a little doubted just because, smaller name school, not a big recruit, right? Not on one of these big SEC teams. But for a guy that went into this probably a day 3, comes out of this, we'll see what tomorrow brings. Probably now or not day 3, I'm sorry, round 3. Probably comes out of this, going in was probably round 3. Now goes into this, leaves this. Probably there's a good chance he gets called late round 2, which is a big jump. Third round pick, probably now looking more towards either very early third round pick and towards later second round pick. So those are my 7 Senior Bowl standouts. Comment down below, give me either your list, whether you like a certain player on my list, or whether you just hope that the Jets and all these other teams draft the right people. I always say, right, you only take this with a grain of salt. These guys might look like studs out there now. You go up against NFL talent, it could be a completely different story. So, but what I see are those 7 guys truly came into it. Trey Mcbride, and, I think we all know no matter how he did this week, I think everyone's still going to hold him in a high pedestal. But Jeremy Rucker, another dude, maybe not getting as much, attention or credit as what he's done in Ohio State, goes in there and really comes out as probably maybe only outside behind Trey McBride, second best tight end. One of the things I got to say about Rucker, and like I said, I'm not saying the Jets are going to draft him, but things do line up for them too. It's a possible second rounder. And the Jets he's from Long Island. He was a Jet fan growing up. I believe he was a Jet fan growing up. He fits the scheme. So, kind of, you start collecting the points. Maybe, I could see Douglas and Sala really liking what they saw out of him. So, either way, still so much going on in the offseason, but those are my 7 Pro Bowl standouts that I believe truly boosted their stock or only added on to their stock this week in Mobile. And tomorrow, you got the Senior Bowl on NFL Network, so I'll definitely be watching that, and I'll be watching it with an eye of, let's see what these guys can do in a real game scenario against each other. I know they've all played, but let's see what they could do against some really high talent. Alrighty, so that's what I got for the Senior Bowl and the standouts. Now let's get to the New York Sports Update and finish off the show, finish off the week. As for the NBA tonight, got a good amount of games on tonight. We got the Bulls, Pacers. Give me the Bulls. Hornets, Cavs. I will take the. Let's see here. I'll take the Hornets. Actually, give me the Cavs. Celtics, Pistons, I'll take the Celtics. Raptors, Hawks, give me the Hawks. Or Raptors, actually. Spurs, Rockets, give me the Spurs. Nuggets, Pelicans, give me the Nuggets. 76ers, Mavericks, give me the 76ers. And Trailblazers, Thunder, I will take the Trailblazers. They made a trade today as well with the Clippers. Alright, so Nets, Jazz on tonight. Nets come into this game 29-22. Jazz come into this game 31-21. Jazz are 5.5-point favorites. The over-under is set at 230. This game goes on tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. You can find this game on Sportsnet. Also on Yes Network. 67% of people in the Jazz will win this game. I'm going to join those 67%. I hope I'm wrong, but I think the Jazz will pull this one out. They get Donovan Mitchell back from concussion. Tomorrow, Kentucky plays Alabama. 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. On the road, 5th-ranked Kentucky, 18-4. Alabama, who's unranked, 14-8. Big game for Kentucky in SEC play. I'm going to take Kentucky. This is 3 hostile and big games, road environments that they've been in 3 weeks in a row. So, give me Kentucky. And then we'll get to fantasy here and finish off the podcast. Alright, so I'm currently winning 566-484 in fantasy basketball. And today I've got going Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Brandon Ingram, John Collins, Nikola Jokic, Segos, Alexander, Kelly Oubre, Miles Bridges, and Tyrese Maxey. Injury update is followed. Garland's back is out for tonight's game. Collins' shoulder is questionable for tonight's game against the Raptors. Alexander's still dealing with the ankle. And Morant's day-to-day, he will be questionable for Saturday's game due to right foot soreness. So we'll see how all that goes. So many, they're not anything big. It's so many little injuries, like back pops up, and then an ankle, and then a foot. It's nothing like major, which I guess is good because you get him back, but it's kind of annoying because I'm so low on points right now because I don't have many of my team playing. I mean, it says I got my full lineup, but, if I have 6 guys in, only really, at times there's only 2 of them playing. So, hopefully, things get a little healthier in fantasy basketball. But anyway, that'll do it for another week of podcasts. I'm so used to saying just about now. Enjoy all the great football that's on this weekend. That's not really the case. I mean, you have the Pro Bowl, and you obviously have the Senior Bowl. So you do have 2 football games, but it doesn't match, I guess. I am pretty excited to watch the Senior Bowl. But you do have college basketball on. You got NBA. You got all that. You got Hockey All-Star Game, Hockey All-Star Skills Showdown tonight, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN, so be sure to check that out. I'm super fired up about that. So still got a very good weekend, and next week with the NBA news, with the Super Bowl week, next week's going to be packed. It's going to be busy, going to be a lot to talk about next week. So that will do it. Another good week of podcasts in the books. I hope you all have a very good weekend and enjoy your weekend. As always, you all know the drill. I take off on the weekend, so I will see you all back here on Monday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.